Welcome back to Talkin Baseball. We have everyone's favorite umpire back on the show, Dale Scott. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Baseball. My name's Jimmy. I got Jake right next to me. We got Trev back from his Father's Day excursion. And we have an interview with umpire Dale Scott, reoccurring guest, not the second ever, Trev. You asked that at the beginning, and Jake was like, Flaherty's been on 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Whatever.
It's okay.
Don't worry about me.
But June is Pride Month. Dale Scott is the first openly gay umpire in Major League Baseball, so it felt like a no-brainer to hear his story. We wanted to ask all these questions and everything last time, but as you will tell by this interview, we can get lost in the weeds pretty quickly and just start asking umpire questions. So, I mean, you guys got anything before we roll it besides he's awesome?
He's great. I mean, we could yuck it up with Dale literally all day about anything. I mean, we hit Pac-12 football right at the end, and I think we could have done an hour on that pretty easily with Dale. So, he's great. And yeah, I mean, there are so many more questions I want to inquire about. Like, does he want MLB to put him on a platform more? Like, I don't know. Like, we all had 8 more questions we could have asked, and Dale will be back, and I know you guys enjoyed him last time. Enjoy him now. Trevor Plouffe?
Yeah, I mean, he's great. He's easy to talk to. He's like an interviewer's dream. Comes on, You ask him a few questions. It's easy with him, so I can tell that, yes, he will be back on. I'm really upset I doubled down on the reoccurring guest thing. My bad.
It's all right. It's all right. All right. Here he is, Dale Scott. Wow.
We are rejoined by essentially our 4th co-host, Dale Scott. Dale, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for inviting me back.
Yes, Dale, we had so many stories last time you came on. Our audience loved it. We have a ton more stories. Want to do a little Pride Month talk and that other side of your story that we didn't get to touch on last time because I feel like you have a million stories. I was researching for another show yesterday, and your name just casually came up in the article because you were the umpire behind the plate for a no-hitter loss.
Yeah, that's right. That was at the old Comiskey Park last year at Comiskey. Andy Hawkins. For the Yankees, and which is rare that a no-hitter win.
Yeah, it was. I believe it was like a drop ball in the outfield and 3 runs scored, something like that.
In the bottom of the 8th, the White Sox scored, I believe, 300 runs in the bottom of the 8th. Hawkins, or the Yankees came up in the 9th, didn't score, game over. So Hawkins threw an 8-inning no-hitter, and that winter, whoever they are, decided that to throw a no-hitter, to qualify for a no-hitter, you have to pitch 9 innings or more. And he only pitched 8.
That's pretty bizarre.
Sounds like baseball at work, yeah.
Yeah, they're probably, this guy's sullying the record.
Yeah, what a jerk, throwing a no-hitter and losing. Yeah.
Well, in this...
That might have been Manfred. He might have been back there.
Oh, boy.
Oh.
Did he have something to do with it?
Well,
Probably.
it was 1990, I believe, or 91. So
20-year-old Manfred.
Yeah, easy on Uncle Bobby. Yeah, go easy on Bobby Manfred early. Baseball's back. We're happy.
Okay.
And the other thing that was going around today, Dale, was, and this was Jason Stark, I think, his article, but he said there could be in theory, there could be a perfect game this year and a losing pitcher with the runner starting on second rule. Have you... that was just kind of going around Twitter a little bit, but I don't know. Do you hear something like that and get excited from like a umpire historical look that we might see some crazy stuff this year, or do you maybe have the baseball truist come out that you're like, get that runner off second base?
Well, to be honest, we don't get paid by the hour, so anytime we can shorten the game is probably a good thing. I think this year for everybody involved it's just a bizarro year. Obviously, the short season, the special rules, everything is just bizarro. So I haven't talked to the last few days, since they came to an agreement with a couple of the guys that I keep in contact with, but I know they're they're itching to work and to get back on the field. But I haven't really gauged how, and I haven't really talked to him about some of these special rules, which I'd like to, just to get an update on what's going on. But I just think it's really tough to judge this. We'll see how it all plays out, but how to judge this season with anything else. I mean, it's just going to have a lot of, that was the COVID year,
Yeah, it will. It'll have its own flavor to it until it goes far enough away from it where people will forget. And then there'll be a small few that remind them, no, that year was funny.
Yeah.
We joked before we hit record about there's no arguing allowed. So do you think umpires are rejoicing all around?
I've been lobbying for that since my first game in 1975 when I was 15 years old. A funny thing about arguing, quite frankly, is there's a lot less of it now anyway because of replay and stuff. And that's really changed how, relationships on the field, with confrontations and that kind of stuff. It's going to be interesting to see when a guy just doesn't like a strike three called him or something that doesn't, you just snap a little bit and get in the guy's face or something. I think baseball's really serious about, obviously the umpire will, eject him or whatever, but I think a fine, maybe not a suspension, but unless he really goes goofy, but I definitely think the fines might be up a little bit because I really know that their baseball, like we know, is on thin ice right now anyway with this disease because we have no idea what this virus is going to do, and we have no idea how it's going to wreak havoc. Hopefully not on this upcoming short season, but I certainly know that getting in an umpire's face or that type of thing that really could be something that spreads this thing is really going to be discouraged. So I'm assuming the fines will be pretty hefty.
I'm just picturing in my head right now, Dale Scott behind the plate. I'm hitting. You ring me up on a tough third strike.
It was the right call,
lay
Trev.
my bat down, mark it, lay it down again to get the 6 feet, and then we could just argue all we want, right? Do you think that's what's going to happen? Like arguments that cross the diamond? Well, people are still going to be upset about calls.
Sure.
There's the human element there.
And that's a really good point. I mean, let's say you call a guy out at second or you do something and a guy might get up and he might be aware enough to not get close, but just, start it up, but it's going to be interesting. I don't know.
And there's going to be no fans, so you're going to hear everything the guys are saying. And the guys like Jimmy here are going to take all those clips and just, oh, man, you're going to have a field day, John.
Yeah, this could be your Make-A-Wish day, Jimmy.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. You need a lot more Savages in the box rants.
Ass in the jackpot.
Yes, I was going to ask about ass in the jackpot. Who was the umpire with Noah Syndergaard?
That was Tom Hallion.
Is that a phrase?
Is that a phrase?
Is that a phrase umpires use, or was that just a Tom Hallion phrase?
In the jackpot?
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. That's the first time I ever heard it.
Okay.
Me too.
Okay.
Us
Us too. I think
too.
that's a brand new face.
Yeah, but very effective. I like it. If I was still working, I'd probably integrate it in a little bit.
Steal that one.
When you see like that rant and like Aaron Boone with the our guys are savages. I had a lot of people, anyone who ever had an opinion on that video, I saw it because they responded to the video that I posted. And it was actually a lot of umpires that were like, that was a good one. He was kind of a little respectful while also being an asshole.
Yeah.
Do you remember that enough to have like an opinion or your thoughts when you first saw it?
Well, I haven't seen the clip in quite a while, but that's kind of what we got to do. You got to be firm in what we're doing, but you still are, you're still trying to be professional and respectful of the situation. It's a lot easier said than done sometimes because, Trevor knows the emotions boil up and guys get angry and sometimes they are absolutely 100% angry at me, the umpire. Other times they've been, they're 1 for 25 and they're and they're just frustrated as heck. And I happen to be the outlet, which is a lot cheaper than a psychiatrist, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, that's good.
I love that you recognize that because, and I feel most guys do recognize that because that is a feeling that I've felt. You're just frustrated. You want to do anything to get a hit. Then you feel like you maybe got cheated out of a strike. You got yourself into a 1-2 count instead of a 2-1 count. that's when you get frustrated, and it's a good thing that umpires, obviously they would know that, but there are some guys that maybe they're frustrated too. Those two combined, like I said earlier, this is going to be a very interesting year for all of that.
Right.
Just because I do believe there's going to be suspensions. If a guy gets into an umpire's face, they just can't have that. So the way to counteract that is to lay a hammer down on the first guy that does it.
Right. Well, exactly. And that's a good point. If it the first time it happens, I lay pity on the poor soul because he might be set the example. But it's funny you talk about that, Trevor, because baseball is a very frustrating game. I mean, obviously, you are not successful at bat way more times than you're successful. And it's a different type of frustration, but the same type of thing with umpires. I mean, you're on the road for several weeks. You haven't been home. You haven't had an off day, or your off day was a travel day, and you didn't really get to enjoy it. It's hot and stuff, and you try not to have any of that affect you, but you're human, and sometimes, and then when you get what you might on our side might feel like was an unfair comment or unfair type of thing, and it can trigger a frustration on our end also. And to be quite honest, sometimes you can be in a slump as an umpire. I mean, sometimes you just, I remember my second year in the big leagues in '87, and it was my sophomore year, so to speak, and it was my toughest year, no doubt, in my whole career. But it seemed like not only was I struggling, it seemed like every weird thing happened to me. The obstruction call, the interference call, the stuff that you don't see all the time. I was getting them, and then they weren't believing me much anyway. And then I throw in an obstruction or something, what's going, and that was a very frustrating year for me. And I just had, every time I walked on the field, I just had to try to blank that out and just say, again, it's a new game. Let's just approach this way. But there are times where the season's a marathon, maybe not so much this year, but a marathon. Yeah. And there are times where I'm working the plate every fourth game, and boom, and I have 3 or 4 or 5 plate games in a row, just nails, and just everything's going smooth. And then one day I'll walk out there and for no apparent reason, I'm not seeing the ball very well. And suddenly you're missing a couple of close pitches, and you go, and now you're pressing, and of course guys are getting a little frustrated. It happens, and you try to get out of that as quickly as you can, but it's a very, very frustrating game for everybody out involved.
That's funny, man, because there's the old baseball adage, like say a third baseman's having a bad day, like here comes the next one, and like the way you're saying it, that's kind of the same thing with umpires. Like, oh, here's rule point 4.7b, and here comes 13.13. I mean, it feels that way?
Well, there's in the course of how many obstructions do I call in a season? I might have 3, maybe. Maybe. Some seasons you don't have any. You have a few more interferences, catcher interference, or runner, a base runner interference or something. But they're not normal. They're not every day you're going to have an obstruction or that kind of stuff. And so a lot of times when you have a different type of ruling that you don't see all the time, first of all, the players aren't quite sure what the ruling is or what the rule should be. The managers. I remember one time, Milwaukee manager, gosh, I can't think of his name right now. He was a bench coach for years and years. I'll think about it. But he came out. We explained the rule to him, and he goes, "I have no idea, so I'm just going to go with you."
Oh, yeah.
It was like I would argue, but I don't even know what I'm arguing, so I'm just going to go ahead and just go. But when you have those types of things. If like I was talking about my sophomore season when I was struggling, when you have those kind of things, it just piles on. It's just like of the 4 of us out here, I'm the one struggling, and I'm the one that has the obstruction. Why is that happening? And so but again, like a player, and I think we might have talked about this last time. You have to, if you make a mistake, you gotta have a short memory, because you got another play, you got another call, you got another pitch, and you can't dwell on that because. Here comes another one. Let's go. So it's very mental.
I thought of a question. I don't want to forget it, so I'm just gonna.
Okay.
It's no segue. I'm just changing subject now. Is your strike 3 call natural, or did you practice it and develop it? And did your strike 3 call change from rookie Dale Scott to veteran Dale Scott?
It was not my rookie Dale Scott strike 3. It evolved. I think the strike. well, I'll ask you a question, Trevor, in just a second, but it evolved, and I think it was really about, I started 86. I'm thinking it was right around early 90s that I really started settling into what I did the rest of my career. And I have had, it is amazing, from umpires around the country, you know, college, high school umpires. So when I do camps and clinics and talk to people, one of, you know, probably 70%, 80% of the time they mentioned, I loved your strike three call. You had the greatest strike three call.
Wow.
and so when you hear that, you just, of course, stay with it. Now, I was going to ask you, Trevor, though, do you guys laugh at some of these different, or even notice some of these different strike calls and strike three calls that guys have?
Yeah, I mean the obvious one is who we mentioned earlier, Tom Halley, and he does the cyclone, whatever it is.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Go ahead.
The first time he does it to you, you're like, what did I do to deserve that, Tom? Like, I'm already mad, like, why are you? Don't show me yet, or whatever. But then he just realizes it's like hilarious, and now, or towards the end of my career, it's like, Tom's behind the plate, boys. Come on, come check this out. Make sure you get a good view of this.
Our classic. He has a classic. My body hurts every time I see him do it. How he torques himself and everything. I mean, I've had a couple of players throughout my career say, they're coming up their first at bat. They go, my number one goal is for you not to, because I would punch. They go, my number one goal today is for you not to hit me in the face. Something's coming out. But to answer your question, that wasn't necessarily natural. It just kind of evolved to that, a little combination of watching other guys and what felt good for me.
When you called balls, was it just said nothing? Because Jake and I both like when umps go, no, that's outside, or that's high, and you can hear him say it. And also, that's kind of a question for you, Trev. Do you like that?
Love that. Yeah. I love when because you're going to ask that question anyway. Either the catcher's going to ask it or the hitter's going to ask it. You know how much we talk. I'm like, hey, Dale, like, where you got that?
Right,
is that, a common question a hitter will ask an umpire? Is that it? Is that the edge? Like, you going any further than that?
Right.
And that's kind of like a little mental warfare there. Like, hey, you called that one. I think that's the edge. And if you say it's the edge, then I know you're going to do your damnedest not to go past that again.
That's good.
Yeah. You got to ask those type of questions. Now I'm looking at. I just Googled the Dale Scott hammer call. It's a step back.
Yeah.
Oh drop
to
step.
Clear the air, and then it's a oof.
Yeah, you've got to take the step back, or it's not authentic.
It's really nice. That's a nice one.
But you're taught in umpire school not to give directionals on a ball call. It's just ball or ball one,
right.
Ball two, whatever. But it's like Trevor said, in the real world, it's not obvious balls. You don't have to say. A lot of times I won't even voice them, or I'll voice them very lightly or whatever. But the ones that are close, ball, that's out. And just let the catcher and hitter know, because I won't necessarily yell at everybody else, but it's because I know they're going to ask anyway, one way or the
other.
Yeah, I like that.
That was good.
There was one.
Jimmy.
Thank you.
I had something that was segued in the conversation we were having.
No, I took over that,
and it was actually part of our
because
conversation.
Last time we talked to Dale, I had so many questions that I forgot because I had them.
Well, I'm sorry.
I also
you can
have
borrow
a
my computer if
too,
you
so you can go first.
Well,
Jakey.
this is a double segue because this is from our conversation last time, and it's what we were. So that's a double segue.
I've had concussions, so I mean.
It's the umpire travel. We talked about it last time a little bit, and people kind of don't understand the rigors of that. And now that's kind of been the big topic around this baseball season. I mean, we're realigning divisions in the schedule and everything. Have you heard anything on the umpires front? Are they staying regional?
Well,
because that would make sense, right?
I haven't heard it since they finalized it, but I talked to Danny Isonia, is one of my, is my best friend in the game, and we worked 10 years together, which was over 1,200 games together, which is amazing.
That's awesome.
But they were talking about, for the umpires, they would stay wherever the visiting team is staying, that hotel, they will stay at that hotel, which isn't normal during the season, during the regular season. We usually don't stay we do once in a while, but we usually try not to stay at the visiting team hotel for obvious reasons. So for this year, I heard that they would like them to be in the same hotel as the visitors, and they're quarantined also. I mean, they're not supposed to be going to a game and then hit a couple bars and and go out and to get a lot of room service and that kind of stuff. It's going to be very, very strange. I mean, I'm if I was still working, it would be just like the players. It's very tough to be shackled like that. I mean, so to speak. I mean, you understand why. You get the whole reason, and you understand the whole what could happen. But it's just going to be so different. No fans in the stands. It's going to be very strange. It'll be great to see. For fans that sit and you can turn on a game and watch it and finally get some live sports and baseball, and that's all great, but it will be different.
Yes, it will be different. No doubt about that. And I mean, this is something for a different podcast, but I'm hearing they're not releasing the blackout restrictions for local people. You can't go to the games, but you also can't watch them. What are we doing, MLB?
Whoa, that doesn't make any sense.
It makes zero sense. I don't want.
The whole reason you black out is because you don't want it to affect ticket sales. I mean, unless they're sold out or whatever. But
yeah, I don't get that. But okay, yeah. I have a question I've been waiting to ask. I gotta hear the answer, Dale.
What do you got?
It's about the equipment, because when I think about umpires, a lot of us go back to the big, burly chest protector that you're holding like this. First, did you ever wear one of those?
No, that was an American League thing, the outside protector. It was grandfathered out. The last time it was used, Jerry Neudecker used it, and he retired in 1985.
Is that okay? So you didn't use it. But
I did not.
I feel like that protects you more. Or is it just such a nuisance to hold it? Is that why they didn't want to use it anymore?
Here's the problem with that. It was great for protection, absolutely, and much better than what we have now. But you had a tough time getting down to see the pitch. When guys worked the outside protector, when the American, remember it used to be the American League was a high ball, the high strikes. They call high strikes, where the National League were low strikes. That
interesting.
Now, both leagues have been together since 2000. This high strike. American League being a high strike, all started because of the outside protector. So this is what was the reason why is with the outside protector, they would sit up right above the catcher's head, right behind the catcher above the head, which, by the way, is a terrible place to be for concussions and stuff. But of course, back then, who cares? So they would have, and so they're much higher. And their perspective, they're right in the middle of the plate, but they're much higher. And so they had a tendency to call the higher pitch in the zone and not the lower pitch. The National League always had the inside protector, and they would be in the slot, which is in between the hitter and the catcher, whichever side the hitter's on. And you have a little bit different perspective of the plate. You're in a much better place as far as concussions in the slot, but you have a much better perspective both on the high and low pitch, where otherwise it used to be the high pitch. So it was a great protector as far as that goes. After the ball's hit, it's a pain in the rear because you got this thing, and guys are really good at taking the mask off and pin it up against their side, and they were taught that and all that. I never had to go through that, but they were very good at it. But the bottom line is it was kind of bulky and in the way once the ball was hit. But the main reason was because you just weren't seeing the strike zone as well as you should.
Okay. And then I wanted to go off of that and ask about the helmets. Why? I've asked catchers this question a lot. A lot of guys wear the old school face mask with the batting helmet. Some guys have converted to the hockey mask. Did you try different ones during your career and find one was better suited for you, or were you always? I'm looking at your video now, and you have just the regular face mask.
Right. The helmet didn't even come around until I'm not even sure when, but I was well into my career when they.
It was like the early 2000s. Was the big hockey
was
helmet
Yachty
face.
the first guy to do that?
That I don't know.
A lot of people did, and then it fell out of favor pretty fast as well.
But as far as umpires wearing we call it the bucket, with the face mask and the helmet. I tried it one time in spring training. I didn't even try it during the game. One of the guys had one, so I put one on, and immediately I said, I can't. That's not me. I mean, I'm a sweater. I would have been on hot days. I would have blown up
because you don't take those off.
Well,
the other ones you can move and do easily.
Correct. And but the other thing is, for example, the concussions that I had that eventually forced me off the field, I don't think the helmet would have any difference whatsoever. Because now, on a backswing, every once in a while, an umpire will get hit. It's rare, but it can happen. The helmet would be very nice for that. But those shots into the mask and stuff, the helmet. In fact, I don't know if this is true, but if you're in a helmet and you have no place to go, maybe your reaction from the foul ball or whatever is up against the helmet. I'm not sure if that's good or bad. But the point is, I tried it. It wasn't for me, and it's totally umpire option.
To go off the equipment questions, I believe last time we had you on, I read that when red became an option for umpires, you were one of the only umpires that wore red.
Yeah, that's a funny story. In 19, I believe it was.
Yeah, when was this? What, red?
Yeah, it was for 5 years, and only in the American League. We had dark blue shirts or a red shirt, and the guy, the National League called them bowling shirts. You go, you're going to wear your bowling shirt? And none of the guys liked it. And I worked with Dave Phillips, Rocky Rowe, and Durwood Merrill. And Davey was the crew chief, and Davey and Rocky hated him. So every time I had the plate, if it was warm weather, I would put on red just because they would have to put on the red just to piss them off. And they would red. They would wear windbreakers sometimes when it was still warm because they just didn't have to wear the red. It was like,
wow.
But that's the whole reason. So every time I had the plate, unless it was too cold, I started wearing the red shirt. It was almost like a branding or a marketing thing. Because the only other guy in the American League that did that was Darryl Cousins behind the plate. So, if you're channel surfing or a game come up or some highlights, if you saw a red shirt, you almost automatically knew it was either Darryl or myself. But it all started to get at those guys. And Rocky Rowe, Rocky's a funny guy. A lot of times when I had the plate, he had third base. So I put him in the red shirt, and Rocky was kind of the big guy. He's lost a lot of weight since then, but he was kind of a big guy. And he goes, I hate that red. Every time I have to rotate to second base, I look like a human blood clot.
I just pulled up a picture. It looks nice. It is kind of jarring in my brain because I've never seen it.
Yeah, I was the only umpire to wear a red shirt in the World Series. Game 3, 1998.
Wow.
Yankees at Padres. That's a red shirt.
That's how you get yourself some bullet point claim to fames right there.
That's right. That's right.
Smart. Speaking of, this is kind of where we wanted to have you on. It is Pride Month.
Well, and I was just going to say, being a gay guy, I've got to wear the red. Hello. I mean, it's kind of, it's kind of the rule, I think.
I'm looking at the picture now. It looks great.
Yeah.
I love the red. And
I didn't remember that at all. This was 98, it looks like.
It was, I believe, the years we had it was 96, 97, 98, 99, 95 through 99, I believe.
Yeah. You got the pen in the pocket. I mean, this is a great picture of you. I'm sure
it's a show look. It's a show look.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, you came out of the closet publicly in 2014. So you're the first openly gay umpire, it says, but you got to be the first openly gay person on a Major League Baseball field during play, like players and umps. I would.
Well, I was the first male official in the top 5 sports, active male official in the top 5 sports. To come out. There's been Dave Pallone came out after he left the National League, when he was retired. The first female was a few months before me. Charlotte Palmer, NBA official. She had come out, I think, that August or that summer of 14. But my story was I figured out who I was when I was like 19 years old, and so it was one of those things that I just remember. It was just like, oh, I get it. I see it. You're gay. All right. So now what are you going to do about it? And I just told myself, as an umpire, you don't have a lot of nuance. You're either out or safe. It's not like, oh, he's out. The tag was kind of late, but that throw was good. But the slide, I don't have time to do all that. it's
umpire brain all the time. I like it.
Exactly. It's outer safe, fair or foul. And so when I realized who I was and that I was gay, I looked myself in the mirror and I said, okay, what are you going to do about it? Because I swore that day that I'm not going to I'm going to look in the mirror every day and lie to myself and lie, and have a girlfriend or have a wife and be in a marriage that isn't true. I just wasn't going to do that. Now, I realized also that I had to, what I call, play the game. I also realized I may not lie to myself, but I'm going to have to lie to a lot of people.
Yeah.
This was 1979, and so things were a lot different then, obviously. So that was my story. So I went to umpire school in '81. I went through the minor leagues. I went through the big leagues. It wasn't until about 98 or 99 in spring training. We were at this little bar in Tempe that a lot of umpires go to, minor league umpires, and just kind of a place we go. And
I didn't know umpire bars exist.
I was just gonna ask, where is that bar? Don't share it on
No, don't tell the players.
Don't tell the players.
Tell the players.
Every once in a while, it was a small little place. I don't even think it's there anymore. But every once in a while, because I was there for instructional league stuff, a player would wander in. And he'd look around and go, "I'm outnumbered. I'm just."
I'll tell you what. Actually, give me the name. I'll tell the players, and then I'm sure these guys will start sending. Let me buy a round for the old umpires. Make sure you tell them it's from me.
Yeah. Make sure they know. But anyway, one of the guys, Rick Reed, American League umpire, we were sitting kind of on the side BS, and out of nowhere he said, actually the first guy was Darryl Cousins, and Rick Reed later on, but Darryl Cousins said out of nowhere, he goes, "Hey, Scotty," he goes, "I just want to tell you that I know you got a little bit different lifestyle than most of us, but I don't care. You're a great guy. You're a great umpire. I'd walk on the field with you any day. I just wanted you to know that." And of course, my defenses go up because, how do you know that? Well, it's probably pretty obvious because I had the same roommate for a decade. And, what'd you do in the offseason? Well, my roommate and I went to Australia. Oh, really? Well, that's normal. But anyway, it was the first time somebody just acknowledged, that what was happening. And it took me, I did everything I could through minor leagues, through my first, 15 years in the big leagues, to keep that secret, and because obviously early in my career, I thought it would jeopardize my chance of even getting to the big leagues or staying in the big leagues. And I certainly, you got to remember too, guys, HIV and AIDS was happening in the early 80s, and this is all through my minor leagues. I went to the big leagues in '86. This is all happening now, and
that was the part, because there's a great article on Pinstripe Alley that you did an interview with, and I think they do Yankee stuff, and as Yankee people, we shouldn't really be shouting them, but it's a great article. And everyone should go read it. But when that clicked and you mentioned the 80s and HIV and AIDS and all that stuff, I was like, oh my God. That must have just been insanity.
Well, it was a tough time to be a gay man. I'll tell you that. Because at first we didn't even know what it was. It was just affecting our community, and so I lost friends, and I've seen, and I wasn't in San Francisco or New York where it was just a plague. But as far as me and baseball, if I had a minor league partner or a partner in the big leagues that was very progressive, people were scared a little bit. They didn't know how it was transmitted. They're going to use a bar of soap that I used, or a towel that there was a lot of fear out there because nobody really quite knew what was happening. And so so there was that stigma that I obviously didn't want out, and that kind of stuff. Now you got to understand, guys, at home in Portland, I was totally open. I had a ton of gay friends and people, so it wasn't like I was completely in the closet 24/7. It was my baseball life that I was, which actually is a lot easier because we don't play in Portland. We don't have company picnics, where all the umpires get together. The only time we're all together is our annual meeting, and then in spring training you're with some of the guys, depending on where you're at. That's about the only time you're all together. or you're together with a lot of guys. So I could have that side of me and not be as obvious because you don't have those, things like if I was working in Portland and that kind of stuff. But it was one of those things that I just figured that, I would have been horrified if they would have found out. And quite frankly, I don't know what the response would have been back then. But as I gained an experience in baseball, I proved myself on the field and as a partner, as a good crewmate. It certainly helps that people like you before they find out, find out something like that. And so it was in the, like I said, late 90s, and then I got a crew chief job. My first year as a crew chief was 2002, and it was so funny. We opened in San Francisco, and it was a day game, and so I worked the plate as the crew chief. After the game, we went to Morton's to have dinner, and I'm working with Jimmy Joy.
Show dinner.
That's a show dinner.
It's a show dinner. Thank you very much. Spent a little of that per diem, and plus we do the bartender. We got a couple drinks. My crew was Jimmy Joyce, Jeff Nelson, and Ron Culpa. And I had worked the All-Star game with Culpa in the year before, and Culpa knew, and he was one of the guys. But anyway, we're at dinner, and Culpa goes, "All right, I can't handle this. The elephant in the room. We're going to be together all season. I want to bust balls like everybody else. Chief, we know you're gay. Just open up, and so we can all have some fun, And I think Jeff Nelson did a spit take, and I think Jimmy Joyce grabbed the wine bottle and just started drinking like this. But it really, what it did is it opened it all up. It just yes, and I'm glad Ron did it because it was kind of like they were on eggshells. They didn't want to offend me if they said something or blah blah blah, And of course I wasn't. It's weird, guys, because you're. I don't know if you're all married, but we would go. We'd work during the season. We get a week off, so we have a week off, and now we come back after. Hey, what'd you guys do? Oh, wife and I took the kids to the coast, or we did this, that, and I always, I took I had a black lab. I took, you really can't, you really couldn't share.
Sure.
Your life because you had this wall that you didn't want anybody to penetrate, and I know that sounds kind of trivial, but it takes something out of you because you can't, these are guys that I really like, that I work with, and stuff, and I just felt like I couldn't be me, and so it's a big relief when you're able to just be who you are, and so it was. It was a progression, but everybody, and Park Avenue, when I came out in 14, Park Avenue knew. I mean, they all knew. In fact, Mike and I, before we could be legally married, we were domestic partners, so he could be on my insurance and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
He even had a spouse card from MLB ID card, and so it was not a bombshell to them. When I came.
Yeah. And what about players? I mean, obviously, umpires, and you're saying you share personal lives and you're traveling, and you have, your roommate. What about players? Was that ever? Was it ever something that came to fruition or anything?
It's funny. I came out publicly in December of 2014, so it was a few months before any baseball was going to be played, and I wasn't really sure what, if any, reaction would be once we got going. My very first spring training game on the very first, early March, in Goodyear, Arizona, it was the Reds and the Indians, and so Marlon Byrd, a longtime outfielder for several different organizations, he was with Cincinnati, and I'd known him, Marlon, for a long time. And like after the second inning, I'm standing over there by third base, and he's going to the third base dugout, and he comes running in from left field. He goes, "Dale!" And he comes up and he gives me a big bear hug, and he whispers to me, "Dale, I'm so proud of you. You're free, buddy. You're free." And I'm like, wow, I didn't see that coming. I said, "Thanks, thanks, Marlon. I still got to call you on a check swing. You know that."
That's exactly what he was doing.
Yeah.
But it was I thought that was really, really cool of him to say that. And one other player that game, that game when they were leaving after the fifth inning, when all the veterans go, see ya, and all the guys that have three numbers come in, play. But Joey Votto of the Reds, as he's walking by, he just said, "Dale, congratulations, man! I'm really proud of you." And what's it? That was two players. I had the rest of that season. I had one other player, one base coach, and one trainer. That's it. And it was all positive, but I mean, that was the only people that even mentioned it. And it was funny because when I came out and had interviews and all this stuff, I said I really believe that once we get going again, the players and managers and media and everybody else, they're just going to want me to get pitches and plays right. They could really care less about my personal life. And frankly, either because it was a few months before baseball, either people just had forgot, or it was like I had hoped, business as usual.
Yeah, I remember the story coming out, and I think that's kind of how everyone felt, like happy that you didn't have to, kind of walk around and not being your full self in the baseball world. I think everyone was just accepting of it, and like you said, it was like, let's game on, man. Let's get back to work.
Right, because I could be the biggest heterosexual in the world. If I'm missing pitches and plays, you're not gonna be happy about it. Okay, but let me ask you, Trevor. I mean, obviously not outing anybody, but I assume you've played with gay teammates either in the minor leagues or the big leagues, or maybe you didn't know about it or at the time, or maybe not. Maybe you didn't know of anybody. I don't know, but
I have never had anyone that's been openly out. Definitely guys who I kind of have my suspicions, but that's their prerogative of when they want to share it with everybody.
Right.
But yeah, you have to assume that throughout my career, I've definitely played with guys that are homosexual, and I wish they could come out and just be themselves.
Yeah. And
that's as a leader in the clubhouse, you just want guys to feel like that's a safe space. You come and do your job, and that if you're able to be yourself, you're going to play to the best of your ability,
right?
Instead of having to hide something, whatever. So, unfortunately, it never happened on any of the teams that I played with. Like I said, I've had some suspicions every now and then, but nobody ever, came out, in the clubhouse and said that. But I assume that eventually we'll hear stories, and I played with that guy, and I remember.
Well, Billy Bean, who he when he came out to Brad Osmus, I think he was in his wedding, and I mean they were really good friends when they played and stuff. And of course, he came out after the fact, after he was done playing all that stuff. And I remember Billy telling me that Brad said, "Why didn't you tell me? You're my brother, man. I would never." But see, you don't know that. It's not like it's like a little bit pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not. So it's like when you tell somebody I'm gay and they go, and there's a bad reaction. You go, just kidding. I just want to see what you're doing. I mean, you people that I'd come out to throughout the years in different baseball, non-baseball, whatever. A lot of times I thought, I'm sure they'll be good with it, but you never quite know. You never quite know until it's there, until it's out there. And so, but as I've gotten older, also, and Mike and I had legally married the year before I came out publicly, and that was one of the reasons I did. I thought, this is ridiculous. We fought so hard to get this. To get the right to marry, and now I am married, and I've been with the same guy since '86, and who am I hiding? I mean, frankly, I came to the point where after I came out, if you got a problem with this, really pretty much your problem. It's not mine.
Yeah,
agree. I love the reaction of Ron Kolpa in that story. First of all, that is a cast of characters right there. The four of you together, that's a great crew.
Yeah.
And if there was to be one guy to say something like that, it would be Ron Kolpa.
Absolutely.
Because he speaks his mind. It doesn't matter if, whatever day you're having. If you talk to Ron, he's going to tell you what he thinks. It doesn't matter.
Ron has no filter.
So honestly, I would assume that a lot of clubhouses, if there was a player to come out and to open up, that's the reaction that a lot of guys would have, or all right, dude, we're happy for you. That
I was going to ask you that.
We just want to have that true relationship. Well, I don't think anybody would have a problem with it.
Ron's whole thing, and I love Ron to death. He's such. We worked together several years, And Ron's whole thing was, I want to bust balls, man. I want to, if we're out having a beer, and what do you think of that guy? Or so, I mean, he wanted to have just like you, as players do and umpires do, throughout a season. And that's the whole reason why he said, let's just throw this out here. Let's not play this. It was opening day, for God's sake.
That's awesome. It's really funny he did that. I really can imagine him saying that.
Yeah, I mean, if you know Ron at all, that's classic Ron.
Yeah.
But you were saying, coming out is a very, very personal decision. And in a perfect world, everyone would come out, and you would be amazed how many people that you deal with, at the grocery store, at the sporting goods store, whatever, that you have no idea that, that is gay but I do understand how personal of a decision that is. And you can't just, the only time that I think someone should be outed is if it's somebody like a politician or somebody that votes against every gay thing in the world, but they're gay. That to me is just too hypocritical.
Which has happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
A couple different times.
Yes.
That we know of.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did misspeak earlier. Glenn Burke was the first openly gay baseball player, and also invented the high five. So two pretty cool things.
Wow.
Yes. And he came out to his team, and I think he got eventually blackballed in a way.
Right.
And he played in the gay softball league, and he would just kick all the firemen and the policemen's asses in San Francisco.
That's
the
true.
Story
that is true.
Yeah.
And he was, and that's why I was interested in what Trevor was saying as far as the clubhouse, now versus the clubhouse 20, 25 years ago. I remember the topic came up. I don't know why exactly, but it was like in the late 90s, I want to say, and there was a couple relief pitchers. I remember one for Detroit. I forget his name, but he came out, in an interview. He said, I would have a real problem with it. I'd have a real problem being in the clubhouse with a gay dude. And I don't think that was the overall thought by everybody, but you still, that in your mind, you say, people, it's just not right. And athletics and stuff is a different thing. You're in locker rooms together and that kind of stuff. It's not like you're just at the office and then you go home or whatever. So there's different things, but I really am hopeful and will be thrilled when a player does come out at some point. And not so much, it's going to be a whirlwind at first and whatever, but that opens up the door for down the road. And I'm not saying baseball's full of a bunch of gay guys. What I'm saying is, though, it is so important to be true to yourself. And I've learned that there's so many gay teens and stuff, suicides. There's so many people that. If I can give you a quick story. When I came out in 2014, I got a ton of emails, and they were all positive, and they're from all around the world. And 98%, 99% of them, I didn't know who these people were. But I got one from a young man in the LA area. He was a senior in high school. He umpired baseball. He was gay. He was not out. His goal, he wanted to be a major league umpire. And ironically, I was his favorite umpire. Yes, we do have fans. so
wait a minute, hold on.
we'll get, that's another one. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
So,
wait, he said you were his favorite umpire before you came out.
Right. Just because he was an umpire, that I guess he had good gaydar. I don't know. But
that's strike three.
He liked
call.
the drop step, in the punch,
and the red shirt. So
yes.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And so I get an email from him, and he said, my goal in life, I want to be a major league umpire, and I never thought I would have the opportunity because I'm gay. But now I know if I don't make it, it's because I don't have the talent, but it's not because of who I am. That's pretty powerful. That's pretty powerful. And he asked next time I was doing the Dodgers, if we could have lunch. We did. I met up with him and had lunch. It was about a week before he graduated high school. Great kid. About 2 months later in August, right before he was going off to college, I was back in LA. We had lunch. I said, "Hey, by the way, how did graduation go? I see you last time you graduated." He goes, "Oh, it went great. I came out to everybody that night." And I went, oh, really? He goes, "Just because of you, too." And I said,
"There you go."
I said, "Well, how did that go?" And he goes, "Yeah, pretty well." But I love that story because I don't know how many people might coming out touched or affected or or whatever. That's one that I do know of. And just the fact that he can say, I know now that it's not me holding me back. I may not have the talent to be there, but it's not because of who I am. That's big.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just the ripple effect of, I'm sure then him coming out that night inspired some classmate that, hadn't thought about it and all that. So, I mean, have you become a safe haven? And obviously don't say anyone, but like I'm guessing minor leaguers and players, or there have been people within baseball that have reached out to you, and I think in the article you said you've kind of become a coach of sorts for people.
Well, yeah. I not so much in professional baseball. I've had one working trainer who's in the closet, and again, you're wrapping ankles and giving massages and whatever, and I can see where guys might be a little uncomfortable if they, they shouldn't be, but I can see where that.
I don't know. I wouldn't feel uncomfortable. I mean, wrapping my ankles, massaging me. I mean,
it's
just part of the game.
That's and trainers.
I definitely can't speak for everybody.
Right, and trainers do that all the time. But all of a sudden, if a guy knows, well, that's a gay trainer, I don't know. I mean, again, I think they're professionals. They're doing their job.
Yes.
It's what they do. But I've had a couple a couple minor league umpires that have contacted me. Some are still in the game. A couple of them are still in the game, but and most of the other ones, there's about 5 or 6 of them, and most of the others are out of the game. And then I've had a lot of amateur umpires, college and high school, and that have just contacted me, and just sometimes maybe just for somebody to lend an ear that understands maybe what they're going through. All those emails I got when I came out. I mean, I non-sporting world, police, fire, doctors, lawyers that aren't out, but they said, well, I'm one step closer because of your article, or because of you, and thank you very much.
That's really cool.
And then I had a ton of official soccer, football, baseball, basketball, just again saying that they're close, they're not quite there yet. They were very encouraged by my story and stuff. So if it helps, I hope it does. It sure freed me up, and made me feel like I went full circle. I am who I am, and it was very nice to know that there really wasn't. I didn't have any player or manager. I didn't hear it. Now, I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I never heard any fan say anything derogatory during that. I had one.
How about
I had one guy in Atlanta riding my rear at third base all game, but it was all about Oregon Duck football and how bad the Pac-12 was.
It's fair.
As an SC fan, I can tell it's true.
Fair game.
The Pac-12 needs to step it up.
Oh, Oregon's going to be good this year. I'm telling you.
We say that all the time, but then you run into the SEC buzzsaw every.
We barely lost to Auburn last year.
I know.
9 seconds left. I was there.
That game was something else.
Oh.
That's a tough one for the Duck faithful, right?
Oh man, it was a shot to the heart.
Go Ducks.
So he was justified in writing you about the Ducks.
He was.
Yeah.
He was. One of the funny emails I got was, I am shocked and appalled that Dale Scott came out as a Duck fan. and then the next line was, but it makes a lot of sense with all the uniform changes. It was good. Oh, that was good.
Pretty good.
That's
pretty good. You got be witty with the border fake hate mail. Dale, you're awesome. We do have to start kind of wrapping up a little bit, and what you just said is some powerful stuff, and your impact on people that. I think people just forget sometimes, like when someone says, oh, I didn't think I could be an umpire because I'm gay. And it's like, that's crazy. And that's part of the reason I hope that you didn't hear from too many people on the field after that point was exactly what you were saying. And that's part of the reason why I love sports. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you're black. I don't care if you're Latino. I don't care. Male, female, I don't care. Like, let's play the game.
Right.
Like, let's line it up by the rules. So Thank you for that. And another just final anecdote from me. my girlfriend. I'm bragging to you, Dale. I have a girl. No,
beard.
Yeah.
Still love you, Jake.
A lot of people always ask me and Jimmy and a lot of our old school fans, and they'll be like, "How do they deal with you guys?" Blah blah. Blah. Like, do they like baseball? Blah, blah. And my girlfriend, she's not a big baseball fan, but she puts up with enough to hang around me. And one day, it came up, and just in normal conversation, she was like, "Well, how many gay players are there right now?" And that was kind of one of those moments for me that like you absorb and you don't think. And it's like, run the numbers, people. There's 750 players per team more or in the league. And, over the history, there's 20,000 baseball players. Like, put it together. So I hope we can help make everyone more comfortable. Because when you take a step back, it's like, man, we just kind of missed it.
Yep. Well, we'll have to have you on again because there's tons of more questions. We can do a full album review on Joe West's country album if you want.
Oh my gosh. No Joe West. No. I will say you have a very extensive Wikipedia page, a lot of accolades throughout your career in Major League Baseball, and now you can add on to it maybe the most prestigious award, or I don't even know what to call it. You're the first repeat guest on Talkin Baseball. It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. I'll be looking for the plaque in the mail.
Hey,
I just real quickly, thank you for having this topic, the pride topic. I think it's important. I know maybe a lot of baseball fans just want to talk about baseball, and that's fine too. But I appreciate you giving me the chance to talk to you guys about that. I really do.
Of course, we love it. We got to have you back once baseball starts. Well, you're our new umpire.
Yeah, the
expert.
first controversial call, you're back. So.
Yeah,
I'll be ready.
Like Mike Pereira, but Dale Scott for baseball.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And there you have it. Like we said, he's the best. Got that booming radio voice. I still want to ask him. Be honest, the zone expands on a 3-0 pitch, and hear what his response is.
Yes.
But we've 0 for 2 now. I've went into both interviews wanting to ask that question.
Yeah.
We'll get him next time.
That drop step, man.
Yeah, it's a good strike three.
Drops.
I mean, I felt bad because I was on my phone, but when you said you looked it up and saw it, Trev, I had to look it up and see it.
Yeah, and he did the unthinkable. He made me like Ron Kopa. So
Ron Kopa's the first breakdown that got millions of views for me when he told AJ Hinch, I can do whatever I want.
That's exactly what Ron Kopa will tell you. It doesn't matter. He just, even if he's wrong, he's right.
Right.
But is an awesome story by Ron Kopa.
Yeah, so Ron,
it really paints him in a better light.
I forgive you for all the bad calls against me.
And it's funny. And that's kind of like I had we've had friends come out of the closet. I have cousins coming out of the closet. And it's such a breath of fresh air. Like I had a really good old friend, and he was so sensitive whenever we would bust balls. And once he came out of the closet, it was just like, oh, okay, well now I'm going to we can bust balls about this the same way Dale was saying Culpa wanted to do. And it just blossomed the friendship because now it was like, where I actually know everything about you. And, it was really cool. So that's a cool story about Culpa.
And on the other side of that is the Culpa side of, kind of the intimidating, the guy from the breakdown who's yelling like, I'm the boss. But guess what? You can still kind of have that tough guy, whatever you want to call that personality, and still be a real person and have feelings and about your friends and people you don't know either. So,
yep.
Look at that.
Cool.
Talking baseball.
Be yourself, people. We love you.
Yes. All right. Thank you guys very much for listening. We'll be back in a couple days with another episode. Hopefully we start previewing some baseball. Should be fun. Goodbye.